The longer I have coached, the more I've concluded that deloads are largely unnecessary if your training programming is dialed in. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And again, this represents a topic where I have kind of evolved because I came from a bit of a background of some periodization, some concurrent periodization and stuff like that. Historically, I always kind of bought into the idea that we needed deloads. But the longer I have coached, the more mature I've become as a lifter, the more I've come to understand fatigue management. The more I've realized it's just completely and largely unnecessary. And I tend to agree with my friend Alex Viata on this when he's kind of pointed out it's counterproductive. Like we shouldn't need to just add volume and add volume and add volume you can't recover from till you force overreaching and deload. That's counterproductive. Okay, and I think it's fascinating from a guy like him who was doing his doctoral work in biomechanics, done extensive research on hybrid athletes, wrote the book The Hybrid Athlete. He himself competes in multiple sports, both endurance and strength sports concurrently, coaches people who do so. Same thing with other people I've seen who are out there saying, look, the research is actually showing deloads cost you muscle. In other words, if you deload because you didn't overreach. Okay, so even if we're talking about the case of, let's not even talk about pushing till you overreach and then deload. But what has been found in the research is that if you are not overreaching and you take a deload week, which means like what we're thinking of, either downtime completely or you reduce loads way below the point to where you get any training stimulus. So let's say you normally do 300 for 8 reps on a lift and you drop it down to 150 and do 8 to 10 reps. So you cut weight, cut volume, all significantly to the point where there is no effective reps. Okay, that's what we mean by a deload. Nothing is even close to within 5 to 6 reps of failure. Nothing. All right? What happens? They lost muscle. They lose muscle and they lose strength. They literally detrain. That's what's been found in the studies that are looking at it more. So when we look at that from this perspective, you have to ask that question of, why do we need to deload at all? And I'm not talking about incidental deloads. And this is a thing that I've found as a coach. Oftentimes your people are going to take downtime. Life, illness, vacations forces some downtime. And I quite frankly think if we have everything dialed in, that is sufficient. Okay? If your lifter gets the flu, your client gets the flu and they have to take half a week off, right? They need to. You shouldn't be training with the flu. You shouldn't be going to the gym exposing other people, right? Obviously. Common sense. Number 2, it's counterproductive to your recovery. Like you're going to have terrible, useless workouts. It's going to impede your body recovering from the flu. So it's actually going to probably cost you muscle. Same thing, people go on vacations. They have things that happen. They have major life events that might literally interfere, like a death or whatever happened. A parent dies, their brother or sister dies, and they have to go deal with it. And they miss workouts and things, okay? These things happen. That seems to be all that we really need in terms of downtime. That covers any possible deloads you generally are going to need. Because the deloads themselves are largely counterproductive. And I can honestly say, when I stopped doing deloads, look at the shape I've gotten in. Right? I'm about to be 48 years old. I'm literally in the best shape of my life. Now, granted, I still got a little loose skin from losing 150 pounds or whatever years ago. It's actually starting to tighten up. But I'm strong, I'm jacked, I'm lean, and I'm still making progress. I don't deload anymore. And the point that I would make to people, you just adjust your training volumes. In other words, in my experience at this point, the longer I do this, I have come to realize scheduled structured deloads are absolutely unnecessary, and they're counterproductive, if anything. They are whole weeks to where you potentially regress unless you overreached. Now, I find that the more novice and intermediate lifters don't always regress. Why? Because they're not at a high enough level to really detrain to the same extent sometimes. Like a lot of times they take a week off of stuff and come back and they're just as strong. Or they're a hair stronger. But with a lot of my advanced lifters, deloads are not helping them. They're not helping them at all. So what I generally advocate is, look, if you are starting to get the signs of overreaching, just cut back to your basic lifts, right? That covers it. That's why I tell people have a few core lifts, right? Like I say stuff like, as long as you, squat, bench, deadlift, pull up, curl, right? So those big five, like throw it overhead press in. So if you are reaching a point to where you're not recovering, simply cut back to your core exercises for a week. Literally, just cut back to your core exercises for a week and just cut all the accessory volume. Lo and behold, what happens? All of a sudden you bounce right back. You don't need a deload because you're still getting effective training. Like, look, if you normally do whatever X number of reps with 315 on a squat or 365 on a squat and, 275 on a bench, you can do 5 reps. And you come in and you still do that, you don't detrain at all. We don't lose any of the neural drive. We also sustain the muscle tissue. Okay? Even if you're not getting all your pump volume and other stuff that we do. So you come in and you do your main, 5 or 6 exercises that you have decided are your primary core exercises. You come in and do those when you were starting to feel overreached because fatigue management isn't perfect. We don't have it dialed in. Okay? And people have to, the hardest part I think for lifters with that is when I've done this to lifters who are in that state, oh, I don't want to go in and work out. If all I'm going to do is come in and do a bench and an overhead press and leave, like they can't come in and just do 5 sets and go home. That's been the biggest problem, that it's not worth a trip to the gym. Which is really a bad attitude, because I would argue that if you're feeling overreached, that's your solution. Come and do your basic, whatever your core exercises that you have decided are your foundational movements, and do those. And still train them hard. Get effective reps, get a training stimulus, and go home. Get out of there, go home. It works like a charm. It works like a charm every time. And then you ramp the volume back up. But that's assuming you even get to that point. Right? Sometimes you just need to scale your total volume back a hair. That's it. Maybe you need more protein. You need a little more sleep. That's it. You don't need a deload. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.